there, so they're wrong.
Hey, there's Skeet. Hi. You look like an old mountain man.
I know, that's what I call him, Grizzly Adams.
Where's your bear, Phil?
Where's Skeet at?
How are you?
Give him a hug. Where's your bear?
I'm
standing next to him, that's what it is.
Where's Skeet at?
I know. We're all getting old, aren't we? Terrible. Horrible.
So somebody says you're moving down to Crescent City?
Yeah, we live in Crescent City now. We're staying in Matt and Beth, but I'm back and forth. Jason, he works for Cal Fire, so I came down. He starts full time tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm the dog sitter.
You're the dog sitter?
Yeah.
I'm up to about 50%.
Well, that slide didn't scare you out up there, did it?
That what?
That slide that they had up there next to the Canadian border?
Oh, that's on the west side.
That's on the west side?
Yeah.
Oh.
We were 60 miles from the Canadian border on the east side.
Oh. One is going to slide over there. He's good.
Yeah. We can just slide over there. It's going to be because Cooley goes, and I don't want that to happen.
You want a pocket knife for that?
Pocket knife? For what?
To open the can. A lot easier.
Won't that lid come off? Should it?
I don't know.
Should. I'll get it off, believe me.
You want a pocket knife for it?
No,
You
you
don't
don't
open it. I don't want to look at the ashes till I get down there.
Yeah, okay.
If you guys want to, go ahead. You know. I don't care.
We'll tell everybody it's cat litter anyway.
Huh?
We'll tell everybody it's
It might be
cat
pure cocaine, you know. You don't know.
Well, if them fish start flopping up on the beach up there, well then you know it's got something in it.
I didn't really know her too well. I just
Hard earlier.
talked to her a few times, and then
Janet
we
was very
wrote a
unique.
lot of letters back and forth. She
Janet,
was definitely a writer.
Janet liked to write. I think everybody here got her letters up.
Whatever happened to Janet's writings? There was about 500.
I've got all the letters
I
she
got all
wrote.
the letters she wrote.
Call them Dear Aunt Janet letters.
Yeah. No,
The stuff she wrote.
you have to ask her daughters.
Did they got it?
She told me that hospice was going to see that they got published.
What?
Hospice, when she was on hospice.
Sounds
And
good.
so
That sounds good.
they,
I
you
know
know,
they kicked her out of Al-Anon because she was so miserable.
The only person that's ever been kicked out of Al-Anon in the history of this planet is probably Janet. You can't get kicked out of Al-Anon, but she did. I don't know how.
She probably made her feel so bad in the first meeting that they asked her to leave.
No, she was in for a while. And then they
Yeah,
kicked
she
her out.
stayed with him about a year.
They got tired of her, I guess.
But she went on a banana diet for a long time, and it didn't hurt her. She lived a long time. Went on a banana diet, eating bananas all the time.
It was a bird seed.
Birdseed diet, I remember in Wairika, she showed up.
Bird
She
seed.
had a little grinder, and I walked into the shop one day where she was, and she said, I'm grinding my birdseed. I looked at her and I went, what are you doing that for? I'm going to eat it. I said, okay. Well, my brother and I were teenagers at the time. We went over and said, Janet's grinding birdseed.
she told me that she'd eat anything, and if it didn't make her sick within an hour, it was good for her. All
I
plants,
always said, Janet,
any plant.
bless her heart, but Janet was probably the worst cook in the world.
Really, I've never had her cooking.
You never want to come.
I've never seen my gas.
I had a lot of much for the Graham
You
stand.
know,
No, I remember my
there
dad.
is people that can burn water.
But I remember Janet back 20 years ago. I was working a job up here at the 5 dealerships in Eureka, and I remember Janet ran into her, and she was staying in a little trailer over here at the trailer park. So she said, "Why don't you come over for dinner?" I said, "Yeah, okay." So I got over there, and she got up in the freezer and took some milk cartons with some fish that had been up there probably for 5 years. It was all frosted. And she cooked it up, and I sat down and took a bite. and it was probably the worst tasting thing I've ever had in my life. I looked at Janet, she looked at me, and you know, I really don't like fish, right? And we had some pie, and she had a pie that she had made with no sugar in it.
Oh yeah, yeah, that.
Sugarless
And I think
pie.
the berries were probably the frostbite berries out of the freezer for a long time to do.
And last
So that pie, I took one bite of that, and I looked at Janet again. You know, I don't really like
She
pie.
made me a birthday cake when he was living over in Utah over there, Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Ruth and I come through. It was on the East Coast. We came through and dropped by. And so she knew my birthday was a couple of days away, and it was the weirdest frosting I ever ate in my life.
Yeah,
I swear to God, it was all butter or something. I don't know what it was.
No sugar, no sugar, maybe.
No
But
sugar.
Janet probably had the kindest heart of anybody I know.
Yeah.
Very warm, a good heart. She'd never hurt anybody, a nice person. But her cooking wasn't her thing.
I can remember visiting her, and when we were kids, we went and visited them in Utah, and they had a Volkswagen, and I'm trying to remember the name, but
she drove it over here.
she had there was a name for that Volkswagen. The only name that comes to my name was Herbie, but that was from Walt Disney. But they named that Volkswagen, and to this day I have names for vehicles because of
That. So I remember Janet back, it had to be about 63, 64, because my brother and I, the divorce had happened with him and my mom and stepdad were living in Carson City, Nevada. And I'll never forget, he came and picked me up. Randy and I were playing out in the front yard over in Carson City, Nevada, about 63, and he shows up with a cowboy hat on, full beard, and a white jag. And we hadn't seen him since this divorce. We were gone for a while. So Randy and I were just sitting on the sidewalk there, hot. We're used to this weather, and it was hot. First year we'd been there, and here he comes pulling up in this jag, and we looked. Once we realized it was him, we were glad to see him. We hadn't seen him in a long time. You know, my mom got remarried, and we're over in this weird place away from our house, and wondering what the hell we're doing, you know. So anyhow, he drives us back here. We go back to the Bayside house, and I remember sleeping in there. That first night, I remember thinking, God, I'm back home. This bad nightmare's over, you know. So, like the next day or two, we go up to Grandpa's, and we'd always go up there. They always remember that big white washer thing on the stump, remember?
Yeah.
We go up there, and Janet was there, and Rupert, and the two girls, and the boy. And I'll never forget, he says, why don't you guys go with Janet back to Salt Lake City? So next thing we know, Randy and I are in her car. So they kind of broke it up. Rupert took the girls, and Randy and Aaron was in the back, and we drove all the way. And I remember we went right by our house in Carson City, the apartment we were living in, on Highway 50 there. And I'm looking at it, I'm going to Janet, I'm going, hey, there's where I live, I want to go. And she goes, nope, you're going to Salt Lake City. So away we were kidnapped. So, away we go to Salt Lake City. So about halfway there, we're probably in Utah, on a windy road about like this, or close. And I must have been pulling on the door, and they had an old Chevy station wagon, like an Impala. And there's two of them they had. They were both like, I remember the 3-speed on the tree, 6 cylinders, and we were going along, and I pulled the door open and fell out on the road. And Janet fell out too. Then the car went, now this is what's really bizarre. The wagon, Randy and Aaron were sleeping in the very back. Nobody's driving it, and the car's going by itself. So the car went and almost went on. It was like it was steering itself. And I remember Janet and I laying on the road. We're all tore up. We're not hurt to the point we need to go to the hospital, but we're pretty scraped up. And then, so Janet and I are sitting there on the road watching the station wagon go. And there was a cliff there, and the car went, actually almost steered like it was going off the cliff, and then it turned left. And Randy and Aaron were both dead asleep in the back of that car. And I remember watching that thing steer itself, go back and hit the bank, and it stopped. And the fender was crunched in, and the Nevada or Utah Highway Patrol showed up, and they were patching us up. And Randy and Aaron were awake by then, and Rupert showed up, and they pulled the fender out of the car, and we made it to Salt Lake City. So we stayed there about 3 weeks. And I remember Janet, she wouldn't, you had to eat whatever she cooked. If you didn't, you stayed there too, remember? So I remember sitting down, and she cooked her normal whatever meal, and I took a few bites, but I didn't like it. So she said, you're going to eat that, or you don't get anything else to eat. I said, fine. So the next morning, there it is again. Next morning, there it is again. So this went on I think I finally won.
Did it start getting moldy?
You know, you mentioned that Jag.
Yeah.
I can remember riding with my brother Ed and Tip, and along the straight stretch we come out of Trinidad up here and hit the freeway. And by the time we got to 6th Avenue, we were doing 110 miles an hour in that.
That white Jag? Yeah, I remember that. But anyhow, Janet, I really got to know her good when I came up here in 94, 95. I was up here for about 6 months. And we'd always go have dinner, you know. At that time, I'll cook, we'll go to the restaurant. Yeah. But we'd go for walks up to Trinidad and got along really good. I really enjoyed talking to her. I mean, Janet, for some reason, information went into her brain, somehow got turned a little bit and came out different. I don't know why. But it was never bad, but it was just, that's the way she interpreted information, you know, just different. But she had a real good heart. Good person. So. Anybody want to say anything? Knock yourself out. You know?
I lived with her for a year in Utah.
Oh, George.
Whenever I got in trouble, then I had to do extra chores. But we had a little vegetable garden, rabbits, chickens, but people didn't live right in the town. And,
I remember that house.
I'd get in trouble, and then about 7 city blocks away, these people had some horses, and I'd be wheelbarrowing loads of horse shit down to our place.
That's a whole lot of horse shit.
But she's always been real kind-hearted, strict in her ways, which was good. I was wild. Another time she gave me a car, insisted on me having it, wouldn't take no for an answer. She was really good to me. Rupert, he didn't know what to think of me. No cable manners whatsoever. Wild. But Susie and Debbie and myself and Aaron worked out pretty good because we all had our chores for the week, and then one of us would have to cook 1 week and then we'd switch off, but learned a lot from her.
We used to make yogurt. The first time I ever saw homemade yogurt, I think she'd make it.
Love the hell out of her. Had a hard time understanding her point, her reasoning sometimes, but
She had totally different than most people reason. It was just different.
all the same, and she's pretty damn boring.
Right?
It's true.
She made quilts for people.
Right,
back in the
I've got one on my bed. I sleep. I call it keeps the bed jujus away.
Yeah?
She made 300
See, I got one. Yeah, I know. And I got that puff paint and wrote on it from Aunt Janet.
Right?
And the time I got it, you know. But I know she gave a lot away.
Yeah, I've got 2 quilts. I got one on the bed. And one.
had a screwed up leg. It was always infected. She cut up rags for his leg all the time and sent him here to Arkansas and where he was at.
She sent a lot of letters out.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody here got a letter, right?
Dan
Janet letter?
1 or 2 a week.
Yeah, lots.
5, 6 pages.
Yeah. I mean, the letters, they started getting a little more fragmented, like, you know, towards the end. But I remember her writing one time, and I love to read her letters. They're hard to read sometimes, sometimes they're easier. One I got about the fasting too. I was just really in the mood for it. I remember getting the letter and I'm looking at it, and Janet's talking about, in her words, about how she's up in Grants Pass. She's sitting out on the deck of the little trailer she had, and she'd done a lot of work to it, and there was a goat out there, the neighbor had, and she's talking in good detail about this goat, how it's out there, and she's watched it for the last 3 days and it hasn't ate anything, so she knows it's fasting. I almost fell out of the chair. I'm laughing so hard. She's going, "What the hell are you laughing about?" I said, Janet's wrote a letter. She's talking about how this goat's fasting. I said, "I've never heard of a goat fasting in my life, you know."
Well, they eat a lot.
But it's good. It's interesting, you know. And I'd write her a letter back after about every 10 she'd send me. You just get so many of them, you know. But they're interesting. I kept them all.
What were you going to say, Tibby?
Sorry about the
I know.
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Sorry about the Philadelphia deal, the bed guys.
Okay, you guys, listen to this one. She was back, her husband had